Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Matt and I do like video games, and in today's video I want to talk a little bit about a game that's quickly moving up my list of most anticipated games for the year, and that is No Rest for the Wicked. So let's get into it. So recently, Moon Studios held a little bit of a showcase over on their YouTube channel specifically for this game, and I highly recommend, if you're interested in this game at all, if you have any sort of inkling telling you that you might want to check this game out, go watch that showcase because it is phenomenal. And I might seem like I'm kind of rambling in this video. I just watched the showcase. In fact, I've watched it twice at this point. I watched it yesterday, and then I watched it right before I hit record on this. And I've got a few thoughts going around in my head right now about this game that I want to get off my chest and talk about, because I am, like I said, very excited for this game. So that's exactly what we're going to do. First things first, the moment you see this game, or the moment I see this game, I can tell it's made by Moon Studios. Moon Studios' art style, art direction, whatever you want to call it, the way that their games look just are absolutely beautiful. And they say it themselves in this showcase that they never go for absolute realism. They're always trying to make their game look like a living painting. They did it with Ori and the Blind Forest, they did it with Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and they're doing it now with No Rest for the Wicked. I mean, you can definitely tell that this is Moon Studios. And if you're wondering what kind of game No Rest for the Wicked is, it's more of an isometric action RPG, in a similar vein to something like Dark Souls. And you can definitely kind of see that comparison because there are these big boss fights in the game. Melee looks, I mean, granted I haven't played it, so I don't know, but the way that meleeing looks in that game looks very weighty, it looks very heavy, it looks really impactful when weapons make contact with the enemy. And it does give off that sort of Dark Souls-ish kind of vibe. And also, bonus points for this, for me at least, there is a mage class in this game, which is just super, super exciting. It's something when I originally saw this game, I didn't even kind of consider that there would be different classes, but I mean, it's an RPG, it would make sense, right? And I am happy that there is a mage class in this game, and I know exactly what I will be going with on my first playthrough. Definitely a mage class, because mage is just kick-ass. And another thing that they mentioned in this showcase that I really do think is cool is the fact that there will be a dynamic weather system. And that's just something that kind of just serves to adding more immersion to the game, makes the world feel a little bit more alive, and that's always appreciated on my end. And another thing that they talked about is the world is not procedurally generated at all. Everything in the world is handcrafted and features, quote, a ton of interactivity. And we even saw it in the showcase, there was a pretty good amount of interactivity, and it does inspire a little bit of optimism for myself. I know a lot of people get kind of iffy whenever procedural generation is mentioned, and I think there's definitely a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, but I do think it's cool that Moon Studios is completely foregoing that process of procedural generation and just entirely handcrafting the game for players to have the experience that they want them to have with their game. But there definitely are ways that the game will offer you different experiences. I know they talked a little bit about loot and how it's completely randomized, so you're not going to find this piece of loot and that specific chest every single time, and it's going to be different from player to player, obviously, so it does give you something to talk about with your friends about how, hey, they found this over here, you found it over there, and what you both did to get to that thing. I mean, it does offer you some sort of different experience from your friends, which is interesting. And also they talked about, I believe they called it the Alive system, which is like once you go to a region and you beat that region, you might come back to that region at a later time and it might be a little bit different. There's going to be different enemies there. It's going to offer you a different challenge, which sounds interesting. Definitely, especially in endgame. I would imagine that would be kind of nice to have, because you don't want to just keep going back to the same regions fighting the exact same enemies every single time. That could get boring, so it's good to see that they have this system in place so that that's not the case whenever you're going back to places that you've already explored. And speaking of randomized loot and loot in general, there are 4 different tiers of loot. The base tier being the white items, And they also made sure to say that this is not a trash tier of loot, which I thought was hilarious because there's a lot of games that feature a loot system where once you get to a certain time played in the game, the base tier of loot is absolutely useless to you. They made sure to make a point that that wasn't the case in this game, and they also said the reason that that's not entirely the case is because that this tier of loot allows for the most customization among any of the tiers. Then there's the second tier, which is the blue items or rare items, and these offer only positive enchantments. Then there's the third tier, purple items or cursed items, which offer, quote, very positive enchantments, but also cursed enchantments. And then the fourth tier, which is gold items or unique items. These are specifically handcrafted and offer, quote, unique enchantment. So I'm definitely interested to see exactly what that means in actual gameplay. They also talk briefly about the combat in the game, obviously very inspired by Souls games. You can kind of just see it by looking at it. It's very inspired by those games. And I think the way they explained it was that it was inspired by, quote, other action RPGs, and Dark Souls and Souls-likes being action RPGs, you can definitely see that is the case. They also mentioned that weapon weight and armor weight will have an effect on your combat in the game. Weapon weight affecting how quick your attacks are, armor weight, much like Dark Souls, affecting your movement in combat, slow rolls, fast rolls. Also, there's like a quick dodge thing that if you're super light that you can do on here that doesn't use much stamina. So it's definitely cool that they're sort of implementing things like that into the game and making you actually think about your loadout as you head into fights. That is something that I do kind of enjoy, honestly. There's also going to be resources in this game, so you can harvest resources and you can use those for different things, from crafting gear for your player or just making stuff for your house, which you can get a house in this game. You can buy a house in this game, which is, again, something I never would have even thought of expecting for a game like this, but it is awesome that you can do that. And apparently the things that you build in your house will actually have a function and be useful to you as a player in the game, which is, again, nice to see. Now, one thing that I was kind of happy to hear about, and I saw a lot of people online that weren't happy about this, is enemies don't respawn when you die. So, like, when I boot up Elden Ring, I get my ass kicked for the trillionth time. I don't have to fight all the same enemies I just fought to get to where I just got my ass kicked, which is nice. It's very nice, quite frankly. I know a lot of people seem to be very upset about this, but I couldn't care less, and in fact, I'm kind of thrilled. Now, to get on to my final two things, I saved the best for last, in my opinion. There is a character creator, and thank God for that, because I was kind of worried that this is one of those games where it's just like they give you a standard character, that's how you look, that's who you are throughout the entire game, there's really nothing you can do about it. Thankfully, that is not the case. You can create your own character, you can create your own appearance, you can be whoever you want to be. That is fantastic. And then finally, this probably is my favorite part of this showcase, or at least my favorite thing they said in this showcase, and that is the fact that the game does not lock you into a class. It allows you more flexibility to play how you want, and this is exactly the thing I loved about Skyrim. This is why Skyrim is my favorite game of all time, and I see a lot of people, I mean, looking back on it, who didn't like that about Skyrim, who really wanted to be locked into a class. You pick a class, that's the class you are, and apparently that's just how it's supposed to be for RPG purists. And listen, I get that if that's your preference, but for me, I like the flexibility. And hearing that this game is a big proponent of that, I'm thrilled, because I remember my first time playing Skyrim. It was my first RPG ever. I didn't know anything about anything when it came to those games. I just picked up a great sword and I was like, this looks cool. I bet it does a lot of damage. And I went through the entire game, or most of the game, with two-handed weapons, great swords, warhammers, battle axes, and I had a blast. And then eventually I got to a point where I started seeing all these spell tomes, and I'm like, hold on a second. I have a bunch of spell tomes. How do I use those? And I went to my books and just used all of them. And I was like, wait, let me try some of this magic. And I'm like, holy shit, the magic's awesome. Now I'm a mage. And then I go from being a mage to an archer. And then you go back to two swords. You go back to sword and shield. Like, there's so many different ways to play the game. and it doesn't lock you into playing a certain way just because you picked A class or B class or C class or whatever class you want to pick. It doesn't lock you into that. And I really, really like hearing that when it comes to RPGs. But yeah, that's really all I've got to say about this game, or that showcase, however you want to say it. I mean, I'm really excited for the game, obviously. I mean, at this point, I'm kind of talking about it like Moon Studios is paying me to talk about it. And listen, they're not, but hey, Moon Studios, if you want to send over a review code for the game, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say no. I will be more than happy to review the shit out of this game. I will get my ass kicked relentlessly in your game just to review it. I will absolutely do that. Shoot your shot, whatever the kids say. But, some unfortunate news. It does only release on PC in early access April 18th. It will be coming to consoles eventually, and that will be at a later date once the 1.0 patch is live. So who knows when that will be. Hopefully sometime this year. Hopefully sometime around the middle of summer, maybe in the fall would be pretty awesome to see. But I'll be getting it everywhere. I'm going to get it early access on PC. I'll get it when it comes to Xbox. I'll probably even get it on PlayStation just because this seems like a game I really want to support. So I'm really looking forward to it. But leave in the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are in the game. Let me know if you've been excited for the game. Let me know if that showcase got you excited for the game. Let me know if I got you excited for the game. Leave it in the comments below. Let me know how you feel about all this stuff. Leave a like if you like the video, and if you're enjoying this kind of content and you want to stay up to date with it going forward over here on the channel, the best way to do that is consider subscribing, consider ringing that notification bell, because it helps you stay up to date with everything that happens over here on the channel, and it helps promote me in the algorithm, helps push the videos out to way more people, and I always, always, always appreciate that. And with that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.